Inhale forward into plank. Exhale back into downward dog. Welcome to this video. So this is going to be a short tutorial on ways that we can kind of warm up our wrists and our fingers, but also some strengthening exercises as well for the hands and for the shoulders as well. So I'm going to use 2 bricks at some point during the practice. Don't worry if you don't have bricks. You can grab some books or even some cushions. It's just to help us with the stretch, but we're only going to use them towards the end of the practice. So we're going to start in a tabletop position. So find yourself on your hands and your knees and just spread the fingers nice and wide so you can see a little bit of the mat or the floor in between your fingers. And then we're stacking the shoulders straight above the wrists. Toes can be tucked underneath or on the top of the floor, whatever feels comfortable. And then we're just going to start by rocking the weight forward towards the fingertips and then back towards the heels. So you're just gradually bringing a bit of weight into the hands. Obviously, naturally, as humans, we don't spend as much time on our wrists as we do our ankles, so they do need a little bit more waking up just to make sure that we don't kind of stress them in a way that they're not particularly used to. Okay, so just going to do a couple more of these, forwards and backwards. Again, making sure the fingers are spread nice and wide. Okay, and then we come back to centre. We're going to turn the hands out to the side, so the thumbs will be pointing up towards the top of the mat and the fingers pointing out. And you're going to slide your hands closer together so there's less of a gap between your wrists. And you could stay here, you don't even have to move for this one. Or we'll rock a little bit side to side. This one's, we get a little bit more of a stretch through the wrists, through the inside of the forearms. You can take it nice and slow, don't have to move particularly quick. Just shifting side to side. Maybe even pausing for a few breaths with more weight on one hand before you then swap and go to the other hand. So just do a few more of these side to side. Okay, and then coming back to centre. Separate your hands a little bit. You're going to keep turning them, so maybe the hands start to turn towards the diagonal. Or maybe you could get the hands to turn all the way around, so the thumbs are pointing out, fingers are pointing back towards your knees. If this position feels too intense, go for the diagonal. And with this one, we're not really going to move that much. You can even just stay a little bit more static. If you do feel like you want a bit more of a stretch through the forearms, you're just going to very gently lean back, but it's only a kind of a micro movement. You could lift the heels of the hands off the floor a little bit, but for this one, I'm just going to keep them down just to really focus that attention of the stretch down the forearm and the inner wrist, so I'm not kind of aggravating the fingers too soon here. We'll do a bit of a finger warm up anyway. So just going to hold for another 2 breaths. You might have one arm that feels a little bit more intense than the other. Okay, and then really slowly just unwinding the hands, nice and gently. I'm just going to sit back on the heels, bring the hands to an interlace and just figure of 8, roll them both directions and then give the hands a little bit of a shake side to side. Okay, so you're going to come into a bit of an exercise now for our finger joints. So you're going to come back into the tabletop position. I like to think of these as kind of press ups for our fingers. So as we lift here, the thumbs are going to lift off the floor, but the other 4 fingers are going to stay where they are. So you're going to inhale, lift up onto the base of the first knuckle. And then exhale, gently lower them back down. So you're going to inhale to lift and exhale to lower. So don't worry about how high the fingers are lifting. We all have different ranges of motion in our body. My knuckle joints move quite a bit, so I'm able to get the palms quite high off. But for some of us, they might only lift a couple of inches away from the floor. So you're going to go for another 5 of these. So up for 1. And down, and up for 2, and down, and 3, and down, and 4, and down. Last one, 5, and down. Good. And again, sit back onto the shins, give the hands a little shake side to side, or even forwards and backwards. can even kind of reach the fingers forward. Okay, just get the blood back in the hands. Okay, again, back onto the hands and the knees. So a lot of these exercises are in this position. We're going to do what we call scapular press up. So we'll do a round where we're on our knees, and then we'll do a round in a full plank position. So for this scapular press up, the elbows are staying straight, not bending at the elbows. I'm visualizing the shoulder blades coming together on the back body. So I'm kind of letting them slide together towards the spine, and then I'm pushing away with the hands and separating the shoulder blades. So it's a movement of the shoulder blades gliding along the back. So you're going to go for 10 of these. So you're going to lower for 1, and up, and down, and up, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. You're going to step into a high plank position and do the exact same thing. We're going to go for a cycle of 10. Take your legs nice and wide so you've got a nice sturdy base. As you're doing this, try not to let the hips sag down towards the floor, so keep that stomach nice and strong. You go for 10 here. So down and up. That's 1, and 2, 3, 4. Remember, don't bend the elbows. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Drop the knees down. You're going to take a child's pose here. So let the shins find the floor, let the hips come back to the heels. Bring the forehead down onto the mat. Just going to breathe here. You can come up onto the fingertips if you want a deeper stretch through the shoulders, or you could just let the palms rest on the floor. 5 deep breaths. Last couple of inhales and exhales. Okay, and then slowly bringing yourself all the way back up. Okay, so we'll come into a downward dog in a moment. We're just going to practice a movement that we're then going to try in our downward dog. We'll just get used to it here. So if you lift your arms up and overhead, flex the wrists, so kind of bring the hands back. Then we're going to shrug the shoulders up towards the ears, so we shorten this distance between the top of the shoulder and the bottom of the ear, and then we're going to send the shoulders back and away. So you're going to lift the shoulders up and then send them back and down. You're not bending the elbows, so I'm pushing the shoulders up and down, and up and down. Okay, so that exact same movement we're going to try when we get into our downward dog. It's going to feel different because we've got weight in the arms. Again, don't bend the elbows. So to come into our downward dog, find the hands in your knees, tuck the toes underneath, this time lifting the hips all the way up and back and finding our downward dog. Now just take a few breaths here. You could bend alternate knees or walk on the spot, whatever feels nice. And then bring your awareness into the hands, again making sure that the fingers are spread nice and wide. Don't worry about getting the legs straight here. You can totally have bent knees for this exercise. We're focusing on the shoulders. We're going to do 10 repetitions of that shoulder shrug. So push the floor away, shoulders up towards the ears, and then depress the shoulders down. That's 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then from here, bring yourself forward into your high plank position. So now we're just going to move between high plank and downward dog. So take a deep breath in your plank. Exhale, find your downward dog. Inhale, come forward into plank. Exhale, back into down dog. 3 more. Inhale, forward into plank. Exhale, back into down dog. Inhale, forward into plank. Exhale, back into downward dog. Last one, inhale forward into plank. Let's hold here. We're going to go down and up between a forearm plank and this high plank. So I'm going to bring the left elbow down, and then the right, and then the left hand, and then the right hand. Same side, left elbow, right elbow, left hand, right hand. Let's keep going on this side. Use the breath. Again, you can send the feet wider. That will give you a bit more stability through the hips. Last one on this side. And then we're going to swap. So you're going to go down with the right elbow first, and then back up with the right hand. Couple more on this side. Last one. Great, and then we'll go back into down dog again. Lift the hips. Give the head a little shake. Pedal the feet if you need to. Okay, and then we'll come back down to our knees. We're going to take a stretch for the hands when they're facing the opposite direction. So we do a lot of work on our hands in this direction with the weight coming down through the palms. So just going to stretch the hands in the other direction. So you're going to keep quite a bit more weight on the shins. I'm going to bring the backs of the hands onto the floor with the thumbs pointing up towards the ceiling, and my shoulder's quite far behind my wrist at this point. This might be enough for you, so you can just stay here. Again, I've got most of the weight on my legs. Or for a deeper stretch, I'm going to start to lift a little bit, taking gradually more and more weight onto the hands until we feel a bit of a stretch down, this time down the back of the forearm, back of the wrist, back of the hand. I'm just going to hold here. So breathing nice and deep. Okay, last deep breath in. And last deep breath out. Send the weight back onto the legs. Release the arms. And we'll just take some nice big circles. So just lifting the arms up and overhead, like you're kind of swimming backwards. Right. Okay, so now we're going to come into a bit of a stretch for our shoulders, and so we're going to use our bricks or books or anything that just gives you a little bit of height away from the floor. So what I'm going to do is just pop them about shoulder distance apart. I'm going to do two variations of this stretch. I'm going to be in a wide knee child's pose. So the first variation, I'm just going to have my hands and kind of my wrists on the brick, reaching them as far out in front of me as feels comfortable, letting the chest and the forehead come down towards the floor. So the bricks here are just elevating my arms to deepen that stretch at the top of the shoulder. Obviously you could take your bricks to the next height if you do feel like you want even more through this stretch. So we'll breathe here for about 5 rounds of breath. Okay, last deep breath in. And a nice deep breath out. Start to bring yourself all the way up. Take your hands off the bricks. We'll do a second variation here. So you're going to bring the bricks closer towards me so that I can get my elbows on them, and make sure there's a gap between them because that's where your head's going to go. So my elbows are coming onto the bricks. I'm bringing my palms together. I'm going to bring the thumbs to the back of the neck as I send my chest base down towards the floor. And again, you can absolutely change the height of the brick. We should feel this stretch a little bit more in the tricep perhaps, and less maybe so in the top of the shoulder, but you might also feel it there. Again, we'll take about 5 breaths. Okay, and then start to bring the body back up. Bringing your arms back up. Let's just slide the bricks off out to the side. Great. So it's a nice short sequence that you can bring into your daily practice, or maybe just as a warm-up before you start your workout or your yoga practice, or whatever you're doing for the day. Especially if you are taking a lot of weight into the hands, or if you're doing any kind of upper body stuff, just a really good way to warm up the extremities. Feel free to comment or send me any messages, anything that you get stuck with or that you like or don't like, and see you next time.